The room was full, but I had never felt more invisible. It was one of those family evenings where everyone pretended warmth while quietly measuring each other's success. Teacups clinked, someone laughed too loudly, and my sister's boyfriend, Ion, sat in the center like he belonged there. He always carried himself that way, confident, polished, the kind of man people admired before they even knew him. The conversation drifted, as it always did, toward work. So, my aunt said, turning toward me with a smile that felt rehearsed, "What are you doing these days?" I opened my mouth, already nervous, already tired of explaining my in-between life. But before a single word escaped, Ion laughed, not softly, not kindly. "She's still unemployed," he said casually, as if it were a harmless joke. "Just waiting for something to happen." The laughter came quickly, spreading across the room like fire. My cousin snorted, my uncle smiled, even my sister let out an awkward laugh, the kind that hurt more than silence. Unemployed. The word echoed inside my chest, heavier than it should have been. They didn't ask why. They didn't ask how I felt. In that moment, all the nights of studying, the applications, the rejections, the quiet hope, I felt it collapse into that one label. Ion leaned back, clearly enjoying the attention. "Some people just don't have direction," he added. "Ambition isn't for everyone." I felt my face burn. My hands trembled slightly as I wrapped them around my teacup, afraid someone might notice. I wanted to speak, to defend myself, to tell them that I was trying. But my voice hid somewhere deep inside me, refusing to come out. No one defended me, not my sister, not my parents. The room moved on, just like that, as if nothing had happened, as if something inside me hadn't quietly broken. I excused myself and locked myself in the bathroom, staring at my reflection under harsh light. My eyes were glossy, my breathing uneven. I pressed my hand against my chest, trying to calm the ache. That night, standing there alone, I made a promise I didn't say out loud. I would never beg for respect again. One day they would remember this laughter, and I would answer it, not with words, but with something far stronger. After that night, something inside me shifted. No one mentioned what Ion had said, but I felt it everywhere, in the way conversations stopped when I entered the room, in the polite smiles that carried pity instead of warmth. I became the unspoken disappointment, the example no one wanted to become. My sister stopped asking about my plans altogether, as if ignoring them might make my uncertainty disappear. So I learned to be quiet. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped correcting assumptions. Let them believe whatever they wanted. Silence, I discovered, was easier than defending dreams people had already decided were foolish. But my silence wasn't empty. While the house slept, I worked. I sat at my small desk late into the night, the glow of my laptop lighting up tired eyes. I took online courses I could barely afford, watched tutorials twice because I didn't understand them the first time, and applied for freelance work that paid almost nothing. Every rejection stung, but each one also taught me where I was lacking. Some nights exhaustion won. I would rest my head on the desk and wonder if Ion was right, if ambition really was a luxury meant for stronger people. I questioned myself constantly. Was I chasing a dream too big? Was I wasting time while everyone else moved forward? But then I remembered the laughter. I remembered how small I felt, how alone, and somehow that pain became fuel. I told myself that even if I failed, I would fail on my own terms. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Small victories began to appear. My first paid project, a client who thanked me, a skill I finally mastered after countless mistakes. No one noticed, no one clapped, and strangely, that made it sweeter. The growth was mine alone, untouched by judgment. At family dinners, I remained unemployed. I nodded politely when advice was thrown my way, when relatives suggested safe, familiar paths I knew would suffocate me. I smiled when Ion asked with fake concern if I had found anything yet. Inside, something was building. I was no longer waiting for permission. I was no longer hoping to be understood. I was becoming resilient, layer by layer, mistake by mistake. The pain didn't disappear, but it changed shape. It stopped hurting me and started pushing me forward, and though they didn't see it yet, I was no longer the girl they laughed at. I was quietly preparing to become someone they would never forget. The invitation arrived on a plain card, slid across the table by my mother as if it meant nothing. "Your sister's engagement dinner," it read. I stared at the words longer than necessary. The same house, the same people, the same room where laughter had once stripped me of dignity. For a moment, I considered not going. I had nothing to prove anymore. At least, that's what I told myself. But something inside me knew I needed to be there, not to confront anyone, not to seek validation, but to stand in that space as the person I had become. The evening of the dinner, I walked into the house with steady steps. My hands were calm, my heart surprisingly quiet. The walls hadn't changed, but I had. Conversations paused briefly as people noticed me, then resumed, uninterested. It didn't bother me the way it once would have. Ian spotted me almost immediately. "There you are," he said, smiling politely, still figuring things out. I met his eyes and smiled back, something like that. Dinner was loud and celebratory. Everyone praised Ion, his promotion, his ambition, his future. My sister glowed beside him, proud and certain. I listened, sipping water, feeling detached, as if I were watching a scene I no longer belonged to. Then his boss arrived. Apologies were exchanged, seats were rearranged, and the conversation shifted toward business. Titles were mentioned, companies were compared, success was measured aloud. The boss's gaze eventually landed on me. "And you?" he asked warmly. "What field are you in?" Before Ion could answer for me like he once had, I spoke. "I'm a project consultant," I said calmly. "I led the overseas contract your firm finalized last quarter." The room fell silent. The boss leaned forward, surprised. "You're the lead on that account." "Yes," I replied. "My team handled the expansion strategy." Recognition flashed across his face. "Impressive work. That deal changed our trajectory." Ion didn't speak. His confident posture stiffened, his smile fading as reality settled in. My sister looked at me as if seeing me for the first time, confusion and awe colliding in her expression. No one laughed. No one questioned me. I didn't need to say more. In that moment, the balance shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. The same room, the same people, different power. And for the first time, I realized something important. I hadn't come back to prove them wrong. I had come back to prove to myself that I was never wrong to believe in me. The dinner ended, but the silence it left behind followed me. People spoke to me differently now, carefully, respectfully, as if afraid of saying the wrong thing. Compliments replaced assumptions. Curiosity replaced judgment. I accepted it all with quiet grace, not because I needed it, but because I no longer feared it. Ion approached me near the doorway, away from the others. His confidence was gone, replaced by something uncertain. "I didn't know," he said, his voice low. "If I had." I shook my head gently. "It doesn't matter." And I meant it. For the first time, I saw him clearly, not as someone powerful, but as someone small who had needed laughter to feel tall. I felt no anger toward him, no desire to hurt him the way he had hurt me. That chapter had already closed. Later, my sister found me on the balcony. The city lights flickered below, soft and distant. She wrapped her arms around herself before looking at me. I should have stood up for you. She whispered, I thought you'd be okay. I met her eyes, I wasn't. I said honestly, but I am now. She nodded, tears gathering. That moment didn't erase the past, but it softened it. Healing, I realized, didn't always come with apologies. Sometimes it came with understanding. As I prepared to leave, my mother held my hand a little longer than usual. We worried, she said quietly. We didn't know how strong you were becoming. I smiled, not bitterly, not proudly, just peacefully. Outside, the night air felt lighter. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight I had carried for so long finally loosen. The revenge I had imagined during sleepless nights, sharp words, public humiliation, dramatic confrontations. None of it had happened, and none of it was needed. The sweetest revenge wasn't their shock. It was my freedom. I no longer needed their approval to move forward. I no longer carried the need to explain my journey. I had built something real, something mine, and no one could laugh it away. As I walked into the night, I understood something with absolute clarity. Success didn't speak loudly. It simply arrived, and when it did, it left no room for laughter, only respect and a quiet kind of peace that felt like victory.